Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us for the virtual celebration of Lions Vision Services 52nd anniversary today. We're excited that the technology and the new virtual world that we have all gotten accustomed to living in over the last year allows us to have more of these type of group gatherings and celebrations. As the Zoom voice just let you know, we are recording this so that we can post this to our YouTube account following the program and make it available for people that might be unable to join us today, but still are interested in what all we'll be talking about. We're very excited for our program today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can move into that. We've got a full hour ahead of us. I'll be monitoring the chat box. If you all have questions that you would like to ask or have us stop to talk about as we move through the program today, please share those in the chat box, and we'll do our best. If we don't answer all the questions live, we'll do personal follow-up so that you all can get that information and be sure that we address everybody's thoughts and perspectives. We are going to have the opportunity at the latter part of this program to interview a very special guest, past Council Chair Dr. Dianne Pitts, who is our current candidate for International Director to the Lions Club's International Board of Directors. That convention and that election will be starting in just a day or so. And we're very excited to support past Council Chair Dr. Pitts, and we look forward to interviewing her to get her perspective on LVS and on our service in South Carolina as we kick off the next 100 years for Lions clubs in our state. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the first part of the program. A little bit of an overview of our organization, Lions Vision Services, as well as some exciting new initiatives that we have underway and some new data that you all might find useful. So we're going to start with taking a look at our past, noting and recognizing a couple of key figures that have been so instrumental in our organization's development. Take a look at our new county needs assessment and capacity building initiative, and then speak with our distinguished and very special guest today. Lions Vision Services was actually chartered on this specific day 52 years ago, June 24th, 1969. It's very exciting that we get to celebrate that today and that we get to have this event on the actual day of our founding. It's fortuitous that we were able to arrange this to fall on that exact moment. And right from the very beginning, our very first board chair, past international director, Leon Campbell from the Greenville Lions Club, pictured here, was instrumental in getting our organization established and helping to lay the groundwork for what would become over half a century of service to our state. Since then, we've hit a lot of exciting milestones. We're not going to go through all of these in detail, but suffice it to say, over the last half century, we've had a profound impact on the blind and visually impaired community in the state of South Carolina. The majority of our programs have 30 and even 40 years of experience and longevity in creating sustainable solutions for sight and harnessing exciting partnerships and coalitions that can move the needle on advancing vision health for all South Carolinians. Most recently, even in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, we were excited to launch the Palmetto Vision Alliance, which is the state's first statewide collaborative initiative amongst a variety of stakeholders and partners to advance vision health for South Carolinians and to coordinate and collaborate amongst those groups that are most closely serving the blind and visually impaired. It's an exciting and dynamic initiative that has an ever-growing reach and membership. It's intentionally as open and inclusive as it can possibly be. We want to ensure that everyone that is serving the blind and visually impaired has a seat at the table to be a part of this program. So we've had an exciting past, but where do we go from here as we stand on the beginning of the next half century of service for Lions Vision Services? We have some exciting new developments and exciting new initiatives that we want to roll out. We're seeking to be more intentionally data-driven, and we're seeking to make a shift organizationally from being what has historically been very reactive to being a little more proactive and thinking, how can we proactively address and get to the needs in our community. So to do that, to provide a starting point and a framework for us, we have created a county needs assessment. The full published version of this needs assessment is going to be included in part of our annual report that will be published after our fiscal year closes on June 30th. But we wanted to give you an exciting preview of that county needs assessment and this new framework that we're going to be using to implement in our work moving forward. What this does is it assesses county capacity for vision health. In essence, we identified 7 factors that we felt were important indicators of a county or a community's ability to provide the vision health resources that its residents need. This study does certainly have limitations, like many studies, and as we move through some of these factors, we'll talk specifically about what some of those limitations are. But the outcome of this assessment is to help us identify communities that need extra assistance, that need extra support in implementing vision health services. There will be a distinction throughout this assessment where the volume of need is not necessarily reflective in this assessment. We'll get into that in some of these metrics, but the urgency and the priority for targeting some of these counties, we think will become apparent as we move forward. So these 7 factors are just the beginning of what we could look at in assessing the county needs here. But as you can see, there might be some overlaps and some parallels to some thoughts that you might have on county needs coming into this conversation. The map that you have in front of you, the darker counties are the counties that ranked at the bottom of this assessment and that are therefore the highest priority for us in giving extra deference, extra resources, extra need to these areas, especially when we receive applications for services from these areas. Again, just to emphasize, this does not mean that the higher ranked or lighter priority counties won't be a focus for us moving forward. Those counties have tremendous need in and of themselves, as we shall see. But these counties that have been identified through this framework are counties that need extra assistance from LVS and from our peers and from our network of supporters in the community. So we hope that this will be a starting point as we think more analytically about where we focus our outreach in the years to come. The first factor is the prevalence of vision loss. This is data that was sourced from the Center for Disease Control. We have done our best to disclose all of the dates of this data. We've used the data that's most relevant and most up to date that we have at our disposal. And some of this data from external partners and sources isn't necessarily the most up to date. So we're working with the best information that we have. You can see this data is from 2019. This map is based on the percentage of the population of each county that is blind or visually impaired. The limitation of this is that it overlooks high volumes of blind and visually impaired persons in densely populated areas. For instance, even though Greenville County only has up to 2.4% of the population that's blind or visually impaired, that total number is going to be higher than the total number of blind and visually impaired persons in Allendale County, even though Allendale has up to 10% of their county population being blind or visually impaired. So again, this demonstrates the priority for some of these lower counties that lack resources to address bigger portions of their local populations. It doesn't discount the very valid and very real needs that exist in some of our larger metropolitan areas that still need our assistance as we provide vision services. We use 3 factors, 3 metrics from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They provide county rankings for almost every county in the state or in the country of the United States to assess the health of each region and each county. The ultimate factors that they provide are the health outcomes and the health factors. And one of those specifically that was important for us at LVS is the uninsured. Because behind the prevalence of blindness and vision loss, the next question that we face in our work is, do the people that we are serving or seeking to serve have access to health insurance that could provide their vision needs? That's the next priority for us once we've identified somebody with vision loss. So looking at this map of the percentage of the population that is under the age of 65 without health insurance, you can see some real disparities or some real standouts here with Jasper, Saluda, and Horry counties really being emphasized as counties with high percentages of their population that lack insurance. But again, the two counties with the most number of uninsured people are Greenville County, #1, and Horry County, #2. So again, we want to emphasize the limitations of this assessment. There's tremendous need in other parts of the state that may not show up in this map, but access to insurance is an important factor for us in weighing which communities need our assistance the most, which communities are not going to have access to other sources of healthcare for their constituents. The third factor is the overall health factor ranking that's provided by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for each county in the state. They represent the overall health of the county, and they are an estimate of the future health of counties as compared to other counties within the state. There's 4 types of measures: health behaviors, clinical care, social and economic, and physical and environmental factors. The access to insurance, or the number of uninsured, was a subset of these health factors that would fall under clinical care for the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So again, you can see some similarities here in some of the more rural counties that again are less healthy overall than some of the other counties in our state, and that lack access to the factors that can improve health in those counties. There's a profound connection between general health and vision health that makes this relevant for Alliance Vision Services. People that are blind or visually impaired are more likely in South Carolina to have diabetes, arthritis, and mobility issues. So that doesn't necessarily mean that vision loss is causing those other health issues. It's not a causation link, but there is a connection between vision loss and people's overall general health and well-being. We approach vision health at LVS from the standpoint of this is the gateway. When we address somebody's vision health, we enable them to address other aspects of their general health and well-being. Often people will neglect those other components of their health until their vision is taken care of. So that's why we focus specifically on some of these more broad, more general health factors, because we want to see how vision health fits into the framework for a county's general health and well-being. So once we've looked at the factors that go into creating healthy counties, the next question is actually how healthy are these counties within our state? And this is the health outcomes component of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation's work. Basically looking at how long people live and how healthy people feel while they are alive. There are some interesting, again, parallels here between the counties that are less healthy and the counties that lack access to the resources to improve their health. We've got an excellent question here. What counties in South Carolina do not have a Lions Club? I'm going to hold that question for when we get to our 6th factor here, which will address that. So thank you for bringing that up. That is going to be something that factors into our framework here. We also wanted to gauge communities' access to local resources. One of the best resources for communities are regional and community foundations in South Carolina. In order to do this, we went through a lot of data, a lot of previous studies and surveys on what community foundations are active in South Carolina and where they serve. And some of this has changed very recently. There have been a couple of new community foundations that have popped up just in the last few years. And if a community has access to local funding, particularly through a community foundation, they're more likely to have the capacity to improve vision health. So we want to prioritize those areas that don't have access to these sources of funding. You can see that there's a lot of community foundation coverage in South Carolina, but there are some gaps in community foundation footprints. Right now, Abbeville and McCormick counties, as well as Union and Chester counties, do not currently have access to a community foundation that serves that area. Again, there's some overlap here in parts of the Central Carolina Community Foundation's footprint. There are counties with specific funds that serve as county foundations in that area. We want to identify those. And within the Coastal Community Foundation's footprint, there's some overlap with the Community Foundation of the Lowcountry, as well as the Waccamaw Community Foundation that we want to point out and that need to factor into our assessment. The other side of that is looking at regional foundations. These are foundations that maybe don't have quite the capacity of a community foundation or have the same collective resource pooling power of a community foundation, but that nevertheless bring some important resources to local communities. These are fewer and farther between than the community foundations are. There's sort of a disparity here. You can see there's a lot in the upstate and a lot in the lowcountry, but that Midlands region and the southern lowcountry don't have as much coverage in terms of regional foundations in South Carolina. Again, these are counties with opportunities for us at LVS to build stronger partnerships within the community. So we want to know where to focus that work, and when we receive unrestricted funding for our services, what areas need to get priority for that. The gaps in coverage here represent those counties that need our extra assistance with that. So this gets to the question of what counties in South Carolina do not have a Lions Club. This is an overview of the number of Lions Club members in South Carolina, not necessarily the number of Lions Clubs per county in South Carolina. 3 counties do not currently have an active Lions Club. Those are Edgefield County, Calhoun County, and Marlborough County. Those 3 do not have any Lions Club coverage, but some Lions Club members live in those counties and go to clubs in neighboring counties. The one area that really does not have any coverage whatsoever is Calhoun County, kind of in the middle of the state here. They do not have any Lions Club members that reside in that county, and there's no active Lions Club in that county. So counties that only have one Lions Club right now include Allendale, Barnwell, Dillon, Fairfield, Jasper, Lee, McCormick, Saluda, Sumter, Union, and Williamsburg. So these are counties that, again, not necessarily are a priority right now, but might become priorities in the future. With just one Lions Club there, there's going to be some gaps in coverage in those areas, and there's going to be a need for us to focus on those pockets where there's not as much capacity for expansion of services. Because the Lions Clubs are so instrumental in our work, we wanted to make sure that we factored in their presence into this assessment so that we understand their capacity, because there is an extent to which their capacity is reflective of our capacity to have boots on the ground in these communities. Finally, we needed to do a reflective look to see where we are currently serving and operating. So we looked at where we've been providing services over the past fiscal year to see what counties are currently being served and what counties are not being served by our footprint. You can see here we have been doing a lot of really good, really exciting work in Greenville, Spartanburg, Richland, and Lexington counties. But some of these counties in the more rural areas here that we've seen pop up in these other metrics are not currently being served by Lions Vision Services. So the whole purpose of incorporating these 7 factors together into a ranking system is to give us an idea internally. All things being equal, if we receive an applicant from 2 counties and only have the funding to provide one service, which client, which application needs to receive preference in those situations. Before now, there's been no real objective way for us to look at that and make a decision that didn't factor in biases or presuppositions or assumptions on our part. So we're attempting to bring some objective framework to that decision-making process. Just to give you an idea of what counties are at the top. So these are the counties that rank best in our assessment. Lexington County is #1, followed by Greenville, Charleston, York, Spartanburg, Richland, Berkeley, Beaufort, Dorchester, and Anderson counties. Counties that ranked at the bottom of our assessment were Dillon County being at the very bottom, moving up, followed by Marlboro, Clarendon, Bamberg, Williamsburg, Barnwell, Allendale, Lee, McCormick, and Marion counties. So these are areas, particularly in the bottom ranking of our assessment, where we want to do some more reflection on what new partnerships can we create in these areas to expand our footprint. What can we do to help improve these communities' capacity for vision health? What ways can we help solve additional problems that might be underlying in these communities? We have a little bit of objective framework to move from now as we think about which counties, given our limited resources, have the greatest need for these services. At the same time, we also know, moving back to these counties that are ranked at the top of our assessment, which counties have the highest volume of need. What counties do we need to maintain our capacity to operate in and to work in? And what counties can we pull successful models from and ideas from to take what's working well in these counties and apply them more broadly across the board in the state of South Carolina. So this is an overview of our framework that we have put together. We're excited about what this will look like as we move forward, and we look forward to sharing the full study and methodology that went into this in more detail, like I said, with our annual report. With that, we have identified the need. Now, how do we rise to meet the challenge? We have launched a 2-year capacity building campaign known as the Catalyst Campaign that tackles the challenge of the increasing severity of blindness and vision impairment in South Carolina, a demand which is outpacing available resources, especially for low-income families. This is a really sobering reality that we have to face, that before the year 2030, the number of blind and visually impaired people in South Carolina is going to double. That's a significant strain on a healthcare system, and we've seen what a strain on a healthcare system looks like over the last year with the coronavirus pandemic. Vision health is moving towards an unprecedented strain on that system, and we still have the opportunity now to provide effective intervention that can turn that trend around. So that is our purpose, and our solution is to figure out how to expand the services that we're providing to eradicate preventable blindness and target specifically underserved communities that may not have the capacity to bring those services in on their own. The ultimate result is an improved quality of life. We realize that vision health is primary to our quality of life and to the overall connectedness of our community. So it will have an impact beyond the immediate economic impact of vision loss, an economic impact, by the way, which has surpassed $2 billion. It's nearly $3 billion that vision loss has on the state of South Carolina. That's a big number. And that has an impact on our healthcare system and on our economy. Beyond that quantifiable measure, there's a quality of life factor here that is really profound. And this campaign is designed to help us rise to meet this need. So our working goal, this is still a little in flux as we identify the exact capacity of this campaign, but our working goal is a little over 1.6, almost $1.7 million. And we have 3 objectives with details attached to really help us move the needle on our capacity to expand our services. These are the services that ultimately are going to improve that county needs assessment that we looked at earlier. That's going to move the needle for all counties in South Carolina to have more improved, more robust vision health, and ultimately a better quality of life. So this campaign began on January 1st of this year, and it runs officially through December 31st of next year, of 2022. This campaign is built around getting us to where when clients apply for services, we don't have to wait to serve them. We can provide immediate assistance. There's no delay from the time somebody applies to when they get the services that they need. And ultimately, we can expand our reach to communities that need these services but are not currently receiving these services. So we're excited about our ability to tackle this sustained strategic growth as we make an effort to more proactively address the needs of our community as it relates to vision health. Certainly, we are going to be rolling this out in more full force later this year, and we invite everybody to think about how you personally can support and contribute to this campaign. There are some exciting naming opportunities that can be available for gifts to this campaign, and we saw one of those earlier this year with Lion Barbara Rippey, who made a $100,000 contribution towards this campaign to establish the Barbara Harder Rippey Society that will permanently recognize gifts of $100,000 or more to Lion's Vision Services. So we're excited about a variety of opportunities that this initiative represents to ultimately do more service for the state of South Carolina. So stay on the lookout for additional information about this in the coming year and a half or so, and certainly be thinking about ways that you personally can help support and advance this campaign's objectives as we all work towards that common goal of improving vision health. That's a look at where we are today. Now we get to take an exciting look towards the future. I have a full bio here for past council chair, Dr. Dianne Pitts, and if I read that, that would run through the end of our time here. Past council chair, Dr. Pitts is one of the most engaged and involved and dynamic civic leaders in the state of South Carolina, and her service record speaks for itself. She is a 28-year-old Lion who was a Lions Quest teacher prior to joining Lions. She's a retired educator with experience teaching from elementary all the way through graduate school. She has been privileged to serve as an instructor for several Lions Club's international programs and institutes. She served as district governor for District 32A from 2003 to 2004, and as council chair for the state of South Carolina from 2005 to 2006. She and her husband Joe have attended more than 20 international Lions conventions, and their attendance at the convention this year will be for her election as South Carolina's next international director, the first in almost a decade from our state. So with that, we're really excited to have this conversation. I'm going to actually stop sharing the screen here so that we can have a more open screen view to be able to open this up. And again, as we're going through this, I'm going to walk through some questions with Dr. Pitts initially, and we'll open it up. If you've got questions that you want answered, please throw those in the chat box, and we'll save some time at the end to get to them. So with that, past council chair, Dr. Pitts, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you mind if I call you Dianne for the sake of moving through this?
It's my name.
All right.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. We're excited that you're here. Tell us a little bit about your journey through Lions Clubs. I mean, this is a big deal to be a candidate for international director. How did you come to be in that position, to be a candidate?
Well, I didn't start out this way, but I want to thank you, first of all, for saying I'm a 28-year-old Lion, because that made me feel very young. But I was very lucky. Before I ever got in Lions, I was a Quest teacher, Skills for Adolescents. That program now belongs to the Lions Club, and it's called Lions Quest. Anyway, that is a program that teaches kids the good decision-making skills, good communication skills, and ends with them planning a service activity and carrying it out. So I did that for several years with kids, and I just found that if you have a student, and they start very young, at any age, and give them an opportunity to serve others, it empowers them to move forward as adults. If you help them serve, learn to serve in the community, then they grow up with a heart for service. And those are the people that in high school end up in our service organizations. And then as young adults, or maybe after they're settled in their career, join the Lions Club. And they want to help. They see that they are powerful as an individual when they join forces with others who have humanitarian needs as their focus. So I have to tell you honestly, I was teaching Quest for several years and did several programs for the Greenwood Lions Club. I was teaching in Greenwood District 50 at the time. And I did programs there, and they never asked me to join. But to be honest with them, they were a lunchtime club, and I was a full-time teacher. So I could have only attended in the summertime or been an associate member. When I married Lion Joe, who was a past district governor, he's been a 50-year Lion, so he had a lot of experience. I came in at a level where I was already going to all the conventions and given opportunities to do a lot, like with friend Louis Drucker there. He and I were governors the same year in 2003, 2004. I have had lots of fun. I'm a people person, so meeting people and working with people just gives me joy. Some people say when I go with people or I have to talk in front of people, it lowers my energy. Not me. The more I do, the more excited I get, the more energy I have. So it's been a real thrill to grow in Lions. And I've had some unique opportunities. Maybe I better stop and see if you want to go to another area, Daniel. See, I could talk the whole half hour.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Being that people person, that comes across in your energy and in your enthusiasm. I know I'm going a little off script here, but you were one of those sparks not long after I joined the Due West Lions Club while I was a student at Erskine College to really come in and open my eyes to the breadth and depth of service in Lions clubs and motivate me to start looking beyond just the needs of our individual community. So it's obvious that your enthusiasm and your commitment for this is profound, and no doubt working in the Quest program there has inspired countless other young people to pursue that civic engagement that we need. So that's exciting. Lions have three major emphases. They've got an emphasis on service, an emphasis on leadership, and an emphasis on membership. And I wonder if we could just take a minute to linger on those three issues. Think about each one of those individually. What's one memorable or distinguished experience that you've had in each of those three areas?
Okay, well, we'll start with service since you named it first. Probably the one that stands out in my memory, I was a vice district governor, so I hadn't been a district governor yet. And I was sent in place of the governor to attend a dedication of a Habitat for Humanity house. At that time, International had a partnership with Habitat, and that has continued in many, many different communities. This house was built for a child that was a student in the district where I taught, not in my school, but this was a third grade child who was being mainstreamed, who was in a wheelchair and had limited verbal skills. This child was not going to wonderfully get better, okay? And we knew that, and the child and the parent knew that. But when they dedicated that home, what they said was this was the first house that the child had ever lived in that she didn't have to be carried into. They had made the sill to the house, the entry, low enough that she could go over it with her wheelchair. They had also been so thoughtful to include in the construction a second set of light switches, toggled light switches, so she could reach and pat and turn lights on and off as she went through her house. They also put in both her bedroom and in the bathroom a lift from the ceiling. So as she got larger, and maybe her mother would not be able to manage an adult-sized child in and out of the bathtub or in and out of the bed, that would be provided for. This little girl, what we could understand that she said was, my home, my home. It was wonderful to me that the Lions could contribute. Some only contributed money. Money is needed in a Habitat house, but some of them continued those sweat equity hours that they also require. When Lions partner with Habitat for Humanity, usually that house is assigned to someone with some type of challenge. We'll call it disability, but I'd rather call it a challenge because I've known a lot of challenged people that have great spirit and a great overcoming spirit. So we need to give them every consideration. So that's the one I would remember for service. If we go to leadership, I have had just some awesome opportunities in my 28 years in Lions. Probably two stand out. The first one, you know, I taught elementary school, but I also taught college level courses. And they started a program called FDI. This was a long time ago, let's just put it that way. Faculty Development Institute. And we actually had a convention where we had an out-of-state international director who recommended me to go to this and who said to our own director, if you don't recommend her to go, and it was in Oklahoma, I will sign the paperwork and send her. I was lucky enough to be in that first FDI. And from there, I've had opportunities to lead DGE seminars, as district governor-elect seminars, in Sydney, Australia, to teach leadership classes, just unbelievable. Houston, Calgary, Toronto, you know, I have been given so many opportunities. And so, and it keeps growing because one opportunity was in Chicago, but the class I was doing had people from 18 countries. We had the interpreters in the back in their little shells, and we were speaking in, not me, Portuguese, Spanish, and English. And so the interaction that I was used to was so different, but these people were so enthusiastic. When we got in a bind, because I teach, so I say, oh, well, let's go with this little group of three over here, and you discuss this. Some of them, you know, I forgot, and I mixed the languages, but they didn't let us stop. They wanted to interact with the other people. They helped interpret and translate whatever it was needed. And these are people I have contact with today. These are people that are coming up now as DGs and council chairs. And even one who is going to be on the board with me was in that international class. So that was a real thrill to me to have those opportunities to step forward, use what skills I have, and work with people who are going to surpass me in the long run. But altogether, it is what we can do for the association that is so great. The last one you have is membership. Well, you know, I don't have the big key for sponsoring 1,000 people, but early on, when there weren't so many women, and certainly not so many women leaders in Lions, I was the one, when I saw someone with potential, I nicely smiled, and usually at a spouse who was already a Lion, and said, would you like to sponsor your wife, or would you like me to sponsor your wife as a Lion? She has real potential for our organization. So let's move her forward. Let's stop, and I know that Gudrun Ingadottir from Iceland wanted gender parity. She doesn't want women to take over Lions, but at one time, women were growing in membership in Lions, but for a long time, there were no women on the board, and it's still fluctuating. This year, I think, after the 29th, when the new board is sworn in, I think there will be 6 women from around the world on the board. That is a board of 34 elected and 6 appointees. Last year, there was 1 woman on the board of 34 elected Lions. That's not showing our membership. I mean, we have women coming on that have been very successful professionally. I'm a baby boomer. I came after the war. I was never taught to step back. Lewis knows that, don't you, Lewis? I was never taught to step back and let the men lead, you know. It's if I had an idea, if I felt I could help, then I need to step forward and shoulder my share. And so I have. That's, you know, for some people that's hard to take, but I'm sure I'm smiling at Judy Scott now. Other people know if you have the skills and you have the knowledge, you need to do what it takes to put this association in a better position to serve. Okay.
Well put, well put. You know, Lions Vision Services is in a very similar situation where for the last couple of years now, we've been looking at the makeup of the clients that we serve and of the board of directors that governs and oversees our organization, and just looking at, you know, are we really being reflective of the people that we're serving and of the communities that we live in? That's important to make sure that we have diverse ideas and professional backgrounds and expertise and regional insight into different parts of the state. You're obviously speaking on a more international level where that's even broader, but it's something that we can relate to here in South Carolina as well. So you're in the trenches with a lot of us that are trying to open those doors. Something that kind of fits into that, this I think speaks more to the service element of this question that an audience member just asked. Do you think that LCI's expansion to other areas of need, such as hunger and environment, are good for Lionism, or does it distract from the primary goals of Lionism? And I guess just to put that in a little bit of context before I turn it over to you to answer, you know, the Lions Clubs focused on vision when Helen Keller came to the International Convention in the 1920s to charge Lions to be Knights of the Blind in the crusade against darkness. And more recently, in the last 10 years or so, Lions Clubs International has added other service areas that range from hunger and environment that were mentioned in this question to pediatric cancer, to diabetes. There's other focuses that the International Association has beyond just vision. Vision remains a component of that. So this is a question more for Lions International and for Lions Clubs than for LVS that's going to stay focused on vision services. But what's your perspective on that, Dianne?
Well, you know, you got to love the heritage of Helen Keller and the 1925 convention when she asked us to become Knights of the Blind. And I think that that has been a wonderful focus for us and should continue to be a focus for us. However, the world has changed in 100 years. 1925, 2025, that's almost 100 years ago. And there is something very compelling about the fact that although clubs are asked to focus on eye screening and providing glasses and surgery, we all know, if we are busy in our community, that there are many other issues. And so every club, your way, has the opportunity to address what you see in your community, especially in this last year of COVID. In my spare time, I'm a co-director for a Sunday soup kitchen in Greenwood. So we are only open one day a week for 1 hour, and we serve about 100 people a week, and also coordinate picking up 60,000 pounds of retail sharing that is given to our food program. So we have people driving trucks and picking up things and sorting and cooking. And in this last year of COVID, when I watched the news at night and saw people lined up in cars around the block and couldn't get food, I felt so blessed. Greenwood County has about 55,000 population, but we were able to get food out to our people. And at times, I mean, there were some Sundays that we served 200 people in a meal. You got to understand, when things are that crucial, you look and you say, what can I do? And many people say, what can I do? And then they sit in their own house and don't do anything. I've been very, very proud of the South Carolina Lions who have worked through this year finding a way to help people, whether it is school supplies, whether it is, you know, whatever it is, you have addressed the needs. I mean, I appreciate you buying glasses, but there are needs way beyond the glasses. And LVS is important because you have been our service arm at the multiple district state level, so that when somebody comes in our view and we screen them and they need a surgery instead of corrective lenses, what does a little club do? We can't afford to pay for surgeries. However, with your network of ophthalmologists and optometrists throughout the state and your expertise in writing grants and making touches and partnerships, we are able to provide those things that are needed by people. Even some pretty, I mean, not just cataract surgery, but sometimes some pretty complicated surgeries at MUSC or whatever medical facility is near. I think it's great that you all have stepped up as we began to lose the grip because of aging in a club of the low state, and it's not called low state, it's called Santee Fishing Tournament. Now, guys, I got to tell you, if you've never been to a blind fishing tournament, there are things that you need to experience that will send you away nodding your head or shaking your head. We have one in the upstate on Lake Kiowee-Toxaway, and then the bottom of the state at Santee. Winners from those are eligible to go to the Outer Banks for the National Fish-Off. Now, North Carolina does it right. They've been doing it for like 40 years. They usually have between 200 and 250 VIPs, visually impaired persons, at their fishing tournament. They use 3 piers and 2 boats. They provide all the meals for 3 days, and at night they have bands, so there are dances. They also have sessions so that people who are sight impaired can learn to self-advocate, because we're not there with them all the time. We're not there. We have to help give them the skills that they need as well and get those connections. And for the last several years, we have had fishermen going there. I know we've had fishermen brought down from Canada, Connecticut, New York. So, you know, it opens as much, but we need lions to drive them there. They can't get to the Outer Banks, right? So, you know, it takes not just being out on the boat. I know the low state's a little different. Kiowee-Toxaway, they have an anglers club that brings their pontoons, and they do a meal for them, and, you know, it is just, this one little lady said to me, and she lived in an apartment in a high-rise facility, social services type facility in Greenville, and she said, I've never been out on the water before. She was so excited just to be on the pontoon. Needless to say, it takes some gutsy little people that will put a worm on a hook, but that tug on that fishing line really, really makes an impression. By the way, things that we can do, there are great horizons for us. There is blind fishing, there's blind golf, there's blind sailing. There are all kinds of opportunities that we can provide the visually impaired community if we are ready to get up and do it.
Yep. That's absolutely right. We were excited to take on the blind fishing tournament in Santee this year, just because of what a unique and special experience that is for the people that participate in it. A lot of our partners, the Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired South Carolina, often gets the word out to their clients for people that might be interested in participating in this in years gone by. And they've already been asking, you know, when are we getting back to it after the coronavirus? They miss it, and they're ready for it. So we're excited to continue that program. We need to get up to North Carolina to see how they do it up there. That's on a whole other scale.
and if you're going to volunteer, if you're taking our fishermen, they make space for you, but they actually have to limit the volunteers because so many people want to be there. I've been blessed to be there, I think, 4 or 5 different years, and we have several Lions from South Carolina who have taken our fishermen up.
Awesome. Well, you touched a little bit on LVS in your answer to that question, and you are certainly no stranger to LVS. You're a past board member. Joe is a past board member. How do you view the relationship between South Carolina Lions and LVS? And after hearing our presentation today on some of our new emphases and direction, how do you feel about the future of LVS?
Well, I'm very encouraged by everything you're doing. The capacity building is great. I don't see why all Lions, once they are informed about LVS, don't get it. We do what we can in our community. Joe and I were drivers when we lived in Spartanburg, and we're both working for the NFB, National Federation of the Blind of South Carolina, to their meetings. Again, we couldn't be members because we were not visually impaired. So, but we could drive them. So they, and I'm telling you, you go to their state conventions, they bring out more visually impaired persons to their state conventions than the Lions do. That's a shame, because we actually have more membership, but they are so excited to have that opportunity to be out. And again, they're overcomers all the way. So what LVS does is it does what we can't do as an individual or an individual club. We send our money, and I know some clubs, been a member of some clubs, that have a problem with sending money outside their county lines. But look, that money comes back to you. It comes back to you through surgeries. And the only graphic that I was not excited about that you showed was who you've serviced this year, because my county was gray, but I'm telling you, I know you've served people here in the past. If you don't give us a surgery in Greenwood County every year or in Newberry County, I understand that. But that pot, that shared pot, gives us the ability to serve those who need the care. So we've got to be there. And the whole thing of looking at where the clubs are, I thought Lewis gave an excellent question when he asked which counties don't have clubs, because what we have to do is be aware. If we can't get a club started there, then we have to bleed over county lines. Honey, it's not a 10-foot wall. It's a line on a map. If you have somebody who lives in a county that doesn't have a Lions Club and you're closer to their house than you are to your county seat, then what are you doing? You need to stretch your service area. So, there's just so much as we look forward to see what our goals need to be. And I thank you, because giving all the different factors you did really gives a complex view of what we need to address next. So I appreciate that. And LVS, I'll just put this plug in, but I'm guessing most of you people already support LVS. You, as an active Lion, need to send in a personal donation to LVS every year. It's not, well, do I do this or do that? You send to LCIF, you send to LVS. All of these come back to us more than we ever send in. And it makes us able to help people across the board. I know I don't meet most of the people that get a surgery, or I know I don't meet most of the people we might give water or groceries to who've gone through a hurricane or a tropical storm. But that's okay. If I know I put the money or resources in the hands of those people who can do that service for me, that's just part of being a Lion.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that shameless plug for Lions Vision Services. We really appreciate that and rely on it. And that service map, that's the places where we're serving and getting those services in is going to change on a year-to-year basis. And, if we look back at the one from last year, it looks a little different. There are some areas that we got to last year that we weren't able to provide as many services in this year. And that's a constant heartbreak for us on the staff level, because clients in all 46 counties qualify for our services as long as they've been a South Carolina resident for at least a year and live at or below 200% of federal poverty guidelines. We can work with them. We can help them. So we do need more support in that regard. I'll provide a more sobering and specific statistic. Last year, only 15% of the members of South Carolina Lions Clubs made a personal contribution to Lions Vision Services.
And your club needs to make a contribution too. I mean, I love that individuals do, but some people say, well, but we're a Lions Club, we're just doing what's in our neighborhood. But when people from your county benefit, your club needs to step out as a group. Because I'm not naive, not every individual Lion will give. But if you feel blessed, and if you needed glasses, or if it's as simple as going to your doctor and he said, now when this cataract is ripe, we'll schedule that surgery, and it's never a question in your mind, then maybe you should give a little bit so other people's sight can be saved as well.
Absolutely. Clubs are a little bit better. About 54% of Lions clubs make a contribution of some amount to LVS, but we've got a lot of potential there. I did the math just to see kind of what our capacity could be, and if every Lions Club member that was not currently making a contribution to Lions Vision Services, that other 85%, if they would just make one $50 contribution over the course of a year, that's like $4.20 a month or so. And if every club in South Carolina would make one $500 contribution that was not making a current contribution over the course of a year, we could provide 105 more eye surgeries than we're currently providing. That would more than double the amount of surgeries that we could provide and services that we could do to reach more people. So we certainly have a lot that do. I see the Aiken Midday Lions Club here is well represented, and they have long been enthusiastic supporters. And you know, we're excited that for many of the clubs that are contributing and are supporting LVS, and we continue to need their help in expanding our service and our reach. But it's really encouraging to hear your endorsement of LVS. You know a lot of the ins and outs, having been involved with us for many years, so we appreciate your confidence in us moving forward. So I think we've got time for one more question here. There are a few in the chat that I want to address real quick. Do most states have the equivalent of LVS? There are about 52, 53 Lions state charities all over the United States. Some states actually have 2 charitable arms. There's a smaller percentage of those that are actually functioning the way Lions Vision Services functions. I'll need to do a little bit of refresher on that information, but there's a significantly smaller percentage that operate as an independent 501c3 nonprofit the way that we do, and that provides the volume of services that we provide. I know our neighbors to the north and to the south in Georgia and in North Carolina both have strong Lions charities that are very involved in their state. Do most of our clubs provide eyeglasses to people who need it? Many do. There are obviously some gaps in that coverage, and that varies based on the club's capacity each year. But many of the clubs do provide some level of assistance with eyeglasses. One of the things that we're rolling out this next year is a new eyeglasses program, starting in those counties that don't currently have a Lions Club present there. So that would be those Edgefield, Calhoun, and Marlboro counties. We'll step in to provide eyeglasses and eye exams for people in those areas and expand as the need and as resources are available. So some good points, some good questions there. Dianne, to kind of round us out here, this is a good note to end on in the last couple of minutes. What's the impact that you hope your service on the International Board will have on South Carolina Lions?
Well, I hope to be like a giant telephone line. I hope to bring you great information from International, and I hope to share information from South Carolina to other multiple districts. It is wonderful to be able to say I will be sitting on the board where decisions are made, but you know, one person doesn't run this organization. It takes many, many people. I know you can't see it on my shirt, but right here is President Douglas Alexander's pen. The theme for this year is service from the heart. If your heart is in it, if you have a heart for service, it can be eyes, but it can be anything that you see people are in need of. So please broaden your perspective. I know we have some clubs, some of them a little more seasoned, that say, no, we can't do that. Money can't go there from Lions because it doesn't have to do with sight. That's a restriction you're putting on yourself. That restriction on what you raise money for and what you do in your community has been put in the hands of the local Lions Club. Now, I want you to support all of the Lions charities, but please note, if you have something specific, unique in your community, you need to be addressing that too. So I wish all of you, I thank you for giving your time, because here it is, probably lunchtime for some of you that are still working. I thank you for coming and listening, and spread the good word. Go out and get somebody to come stand shoulder to shoulder with you and serve your community. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Daniel.
It's been a pleasure, Dianne. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and to share your perspective with others. We're tremendously excited about your candidacy for International Director and look forward to all the accomplishments and accolades that you'll bring to your service and to South Carolina as you represent our state over the next 2 years on the global stage. So we thank you for all that you do and continue to do for us, and look forward to following all of your future successes. So with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude our program today. We will be posting this recording on our YouTube channel so that you can watch it again or share it with others that weren't able to attend. And we encourage you to subscribe to that YouTube channel and to follow us on a variety of the social media platforms that we're on, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. We try to be present in as many places as we can in a meaningful way. And if you feel so moved, because today is the 52nd anniversary of Lions Vision Services, I'll just end with a request to make a special contribution to Lions Vision Services on this anniversary. Maybe it's $5.20, maybe it's $520, but work that 52 in there somewhere and do something special for us to celebrate our past and position us to move forward in an exciting way in the years to come. So thank you all for celebrating with us today. Stay safe and well, and we look forward to seeing you at our next virtual or in-person event. Take care.